Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Thursday night beer comparison review. As you can see, I got something special in the mail. Yeah, I got Medicare gear. So, I very rarely buy anything off the internet, much less for myself. But the man's got some medical issues, so I couldn't help myself but throw some money at him. By buying his merch. So yeah, 4 out of 5 stars. That's how it actually would rate it. Now I'm going to dub this review. I was supposed to get a haircut review, but I overslept. Why did I oversleep? Well, at work, I accidentally lost my vehicle keys for most of the shift, so I ended up walking somewhere around the neighborhood of like 16 miles, 15, 16 miles thereabout. Um, Even when I do have a vehicle, I still do a lot of walking at my job. So, without a vehicle, it became like ridiculous amounts of walking. Um, yeah, so I was very tired last night. Anyways, it is, that time of year. And what is that time of year? It is Oktoberfest season. And so one of the beers my father gave me to kind of review is, of course, Samuel Adams Oktoberfest. And I believe out of all the beers I've ever reviewed on my channel, this is probably the one I've reviewed the most, because he always gives me one and I always review it. And it doesn't change all that much. So I thought I would go and change it up a little bit by making this sort of a comparison review. Now, at that new shop Bottle Works, they had Ayinger's Octoberfest Marzen. So this is an authentic, Bavarian Marzen. And so we have probably the most widely distributed American Marzen versus a traditional, highly rated, highly regarded German Marzen. Okay, well, let's read the back of both of them real quickly now. So Sam Adams here. Malt brings so much to a great beer. That's why we developed a unique malt blend to provide a robust color and smooth, rich flavor. Like you, we look forward to this tradition every year. And from the Ayinger bottle, amber-colored, rich, full-bodied. Ayinger, at the foot of the Bavarian Alps, is one of the world's most respected breweries. Family owned and operated since 1878. So I last reviewed this about like 5 or 6 years ago. I don't think I've had it since then because it sells out quickly. This new place, it's a smaller bottle. Usually I've seen it for sale when I've seen it for sale at Tamura's, it's usually in the 500 milliliter bottle. This, I believe, is the 330. Of course, American style one here, 12 fluid ounces, which is roughly about 375. So it's not going to pour evenly. Now, this is not my preferred Marzen glass, but I wanted ones of similar shapes. So yeah, let's just get straight to pouring and nosing, shall we? I have to pour this one carefully because it is not a very capacious glass. Okay, successfully poured out. Okay, now for the Ayinger. Okay, now that's quite different. As you can see here, one is quite a good shade darker than the other. So Samuel Adams Oktoberfest is almost, well, it looks copper colored on camera, but it's really just a more reddish tinge to the amber. whereas this is more of an orange amber color. This one seems to be much more, yeah, no date on this. The Ayinger bottle, at least. I want to go and look at it. This one seems to be much more actively carbonated. This one, carbonation's visible, not as, vigorous. As follows, the head for the Samuel Adams Oktoberfest is a shade darker, going into off-white, shade darker pitch of off-white than the Ayinger. On to the nosing. Brown bread. And some slightly floral hops. But mostly kind of brown bread, maybe a slight crusting of like caramelized sugar. Okay, on to the Ayinger, since the head is dissipating kind of quickly on this one. See if we can get to... Nope, not much in there. Okay. Oh, wow. This one, the smell is much, much more intense. The breadiness isn't so much brown bread, it's just sort of like baked bread. Kind of crusty baked bread. A certain doughiness to the malts. It's very expressive, the malting here, in ways you usually don't see in most beers. So kind of doughiness, crusty baked bread, baked bread, baked bed. That's what you do when you drink too much of these. Not so much any hopping in the nose. I just realized I forgot to fill my water glass. Oh well. I'll use this. I didn't go and completely drink all my water today, so there's water in my hydro flask. But yeah, this one, even though they're around the same temperature, the Sam Adams one is much more closed up in its bouquet. Okay, on to the tasting. This is 5.3 ABV, by the way. So you get some baked brown bread, some caramelized sugar tasting notes, followed by hop bitterness. Again, brown bread in the top note. Almost a grassy note to the hops in the top note as well. Followed by hop bitterness in the mids and into the finish. Finish is mostly clean with kind of a lingering bitter ghost in the long finish. Okay. Okay, on to the Ayinger. 100% liquid bread up front. It's amazing how much it kind of emulates like that taste of like crusty white bread. You know, fresh baked. I don't know why I'm having so much trouble saying the word baked today. Fresh baked, you know, crusty white bread. There's a lot less. The caramelized notes are there, but they're much more minimal. As is the hop bitterness that sort of emerges at its strongest in the mid to finish. But yeah, very much liquid bread. What more can I say? Back to the Sam Adams. So I would say that the difference in between the two beers is they're both really, you know, malt forward, but there seems to be more. I'm not sure if I should say residual sugars, but perceived sweetness on the palate from the maltiness in the Sam Adams Oktoberfest Marzen, as well as much more hop presence in the mids to finish. You know, it's still within style. You know, it's not like ridiculously hopped. It's still malt forward. Hops are definitely still second player to in this particular beer, but they are. It's much more stiffly hopped, and I think that's kind of to balance the sweetness of it. The Sam Adams also has a much more roasted kind of flavor to it. I guess not roasted is the word I want to use. More of a toasted kind of flavor to it. Ayinger, by the way, 5.8 ABV. If the Sam Adams Oktoberfest is toasty, the Ayinger is bready. Very, very bready. That's not to say there are zero caramelized notes to it. Like I said, it's still the bread is still crusty. But yeah, you know, back to the Sam Adams. So what can we say about these? Both of these beers are fairly highly rated within on rating, you know, rating websites. So it's not really a matter of is this quality or not. They're both quality. What I think really is being demonstrated here is sort of an American take versus a very traditional German take. What is the American take? Well, any sort of American take on a traditional style generally has a stiffer level of hopping. Now, whether this is from the brewing process or whether this is from please excuse my voice cracking. What I found out what the problem was. I have bad acid reflux apparently, and it's kind of wrecking my vocal cords and everything else in my throat. And that's not to say that it's purely the brewer end of it. It also might be the fact that import beers tend to sit a bit more than American-made beers, just from the entire importation process. That's why a lot of, mass market import lagers are actually brewed in America. It it just makes the beer more fresh. And I'm not saying this is stale or anything. It's just like the difference in between something that's made fairly recently and something that might have a couple of months to it. So that's one aspect. The other aspect, which is a bit more subjective on my part, is that the Samuel Adams beer goes down a little bit easier by itself, whereas this one has such an intense maltiness to it, the Ayinger that is, has such an intense maltiness to it that you really want to go and pair it with something. I am really craving like some roast chicken and mashed potatoes right now. This would just be like so great to go and drink with like a nice hearty German meal. And a traditional Oktoberfest meal, which apparently is chicken and not sausages. I've been watching this YouTube channel called Feli from Germany, and she's from Bavaria, and she kind of explained. She had like a few videos about Oktoberfest, which kind of contextualizes it very well. That one, it's very much a regional sort of festival. It's not celebrated or even very well known outside of Bavaria. And too much of what we consider the trappings of it in America or are just kind of like you know, various immigrant traditions pastiched into one that don't quite match what actually occurs in Germany. In Germany, there's just like these 5 or 6 gigantic beer halls that are run by the largest breweries in Bavaria, and you just have your choice of those particular beers and a few dishes that go with it. Um, and it's basically a folk festival. It's like carnival rides and everything. And yeah, you do wear like traditional clothes to it, but it's not like some it's not like some really super traditional authentic folk tradition, and it's not like some what's the other thing. It's not like something that's fake either. It's definitely something that's been around since the early 1800s, but has evolved with time, as all things do. It's a great video. You can just go and look it up. Just go and type in Feli from Germany and Oktoberfest. She has like a whole series on it. Really, really good stuff for explaining um, the origins of the festival and how it's changed over time, including the beers for that matter. And tomorrow's review kind of goes and plays into that. So today, I basically reviewed 2 Marzens, which were the traditional beers drunk at the Oktoberfest festival in Munich, in Bavaria. But in the 80s, that sort of shifted to a different beer style, the Fest beer style, which I will be discussing in the next video, obviously, because I'm already hitting like 20 minutes here. So I just want to go and wrap this up. Which of these 2 beers do I prefer? That's actually a somewhat difficult question. These are both great beers. You're not going to go wrong with either of them. your taste may vary. At this point, you're not going to say one's terrible and one's great. They're both great beers. They're very different beers. Which one do I prefer? Well, rarity being what it is, I always tend to lean towards what's rarer, and a good import Marzen is hard to find in Hawaii. So that influences my decision somewhat. Um, Also, too, this beer just screams, pair me with a good hearty traditional meal. And I kind of wish I had one right now, but honestly, I don't. So yeah, I'm going to give it to Ayinger. You know, the ratings aren't too difficult. Obviously, Ayinger wins out on the ratings websites, but the Sam Adams Marzen is Oktoberfest Marzen is not, rated low. It's just common, and common beers generally don't have, the most sky high ratings on beer review websites. Just what it is, folks. So, kind of yammered on enough about these lovely beers. Um, as I've mentioned multiple times, Marzen is one of my favorite beer styles. Why? Because I love bread. It's as simple as that. And my camera is deciding to go and muck up. So with that, I am going to toast you off with the Ayinger and a hearty Proust.